What's up, guys? Welcome back to Nightcast. Today, we're going to be looking at 5 horrifying stories.
All right, let's read this first story here. It's called Crawling Up the Stairs. This is Reddit user Trick Compote 9001. He says, "Let me preface this by saying I don't hallucinate, nor am I psychotic. This has been bothering me since it happened a couple years ago. Before this incident, I used to leave my door room open, which has a full-length mirror fastened to it. I went back upstairs one afternoon to grab something from my room. The lights were off upstairs, but it was still daylight outside, so there was a sufficient amount of light coming in through the windows. As I was walking the last few steps up to the third floor, I glanced into the mirror that was open on my door. It appeared that behind me, crawling up the stairs, was a pale, thin girl wearing either a dirty white dress or an oversized t-shirt. She had long, stringy black hair that was greasy and plastered across her head, so I couldn't clearly see her face. You know what? She deadass looked like something straight out of The Grudge. Of course, I turned around to look behind me, and there was no one there. I haven't left my door open since. I like to think that I was just imagining things, as I never saw anything before or after this event."
Damn.
That's pretty creepy, man. That's
Yeah,
pretty creepy.
that is fucking creepy. I mean, what do you think? Do you think this guy is, like, crazy or something? Or...
I mean, it's hard to say, he did go into some pretty good detail here. It's hard to say that he's like, pulling this one out.
Yeah. And I mean, he says he's never seen anything really before this in his life, and he hasn't seen anything since.
Right, so he's not making up a bunch of stories.
Right. And I mean, he's really got nothing to gain here, posting anonymously. So,
Right.
I mean, if I saw that shit, dude, I'd fucking
I'd
run.
be moving out, man.
Yeah, fuck
To
that.
say the least.
Yeah, I'd be running, that's for sure.
That's pretty freaky. As if The Grudge wasn't scary enough, man. That shit sounds terrifying.
Yeah, I know, right? So this next story is coming in from Reddit user Davy Jones 1. It's titled, "Entity Trying to Attack Wife During Sleep." Last night, I could hear my wife murmuring in her sleep, which I thought she was probably dreaming. Suddenly, she screamed my name at the top of her lungs, trying to wake me up. She said that while lying down in bed, she saw a black shadow on top of her, and she felt pressure around her thighs, as if something was trying to spread her legs open. During this entire time, she felt like she was paralyzed, and she tried to push the entity away while trying to scream out my name, but she couldn't. According to her, the entire experience, it lasted a few minutes. After I woke up, we talked about it, and she fell asleep a few hours later with no further incidents. But she was still terrified. She says that this never happened before, and he says, "What is the best way to deal with something like this and to protect ourselves from this happening to her again?" Well, I don't have an answer for this dude, but all I can say is that's fucking creepy.
I don't have an answer as well, but if any of you guys do, make sure to drop it in the comments. We'll take a look at that. But man, this is some weird stuff. I've never heard of entities trying to sexually assault, attack somebody while they're sleeping. Like,
Yeah.
that's pretty strange.
Yeah, I
Pretty
mean,
strange. It definitely sounds like some sleep paralysis type stuff.
right.
But sleep paralysis, from what I've heard, the stuff you're seeing is pretty real. It's kind of like two realms interacting, if you will.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard of, like, people seeing shit move in their room, or, like, sometimes they know for a fact they put something down in a certain spot, and then all of a sudden it's somewhere else, and they live alone or something, and there's no way that anybody did it. But full on attack a ghost is that's a new one for me.
That's freaky. All right, so this next post is coming from user Rossi Road. Title is "My Dad Visited Me." It's a personal experience. He says, When I was 6 years old, my dad had passed away in a car crash on his way home from work. Before we got this news, I was sitting on our old couch watching SpongeBob. My mom was sitting in the kitchen cooking dinner. The hallway was right next to the amusement center, and all the bedrooms were down the hallway. My dad came walking down the hallway, smiled at me. I said, "Hi, Daddy," and he came up and kissed me on the forehead and went to the kitchen. I remember thinking it was weird because I didn't see him come through the kitchen, which is where the front door is. Then my mom asked me who I was talking to. Not even a half hour later, police were at our front door and told us that my father had been killed. I like to think he was saying goodbye.
Dang.
It's quite interesting. I think he was seeing his father, his ghost of his father.
I mean, yeah, I mean, either he was having, a really vivid dream.
Right.
He was,
dream.
yeah, he was like 6 years old, so maybe his memory's a little bit foggy, but I mean, for all those things to happen and like the order that they happen, I mean, that's pretty coincidental, I guess.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. It's certainly interesting.
So this next story is coming in from an anonymous user on Reddit. He says, "My girlfriend left me a few weeks ago now. I was so desperate while deleting her pictures in the dark that I said I would sell my soul to get her back. And not even a few seconds after I said that, I saw a black skinny form sliding up from the floor. It had no hair, really long hands with claws, and it was staring in my direction. I saw it put its finger up to its mouth and say, 'Shh.'" What the fuck?
That's some creepy shit, bro.
"I tried to stand up, but my body was just paralyzed. I knew that I wasn't in sleep paralysis because I could feel the tears on my face. I looked up at the clock, and then when I looked back, my body came back and I quickly checked the mirror. I was so scared that I bought a Catholic cross for my wall, and I always keep a small light on now, just in case I ever see him again." Jeez.
Yeah, it's a little weird. That's a weird one for sure. So was this entity coming to steal his soul? To buy
Yeah.
I should say. He said he was going to sell his soul.
Right, yeah. I
Gotta
mean,
be careful what you wish for sometimes.
exactly. And there's like urban legends of people that, supposedly sold their soul in exchange for, money or talent, like to play the guitar better or, all sorts of things. But I've never heard of it happening quite like this. I mean, literally a few seconds after he says that, he sees this creepy ass shit slide up from his floor. That's a new one.
It makes you feel like somebody's always there listening,
Right.
watching,
Yeah.
It's kind of creepy to think about, but
Yeah.
all right, so this next story is called "Won't Go Into My Basement Alone Anymore." User XXT213. He says, or they say, "Okay, so I haven't really told anyone this story apart from my family. My friends would probably think I was insane if I said anything. This was maybe around 10 years ago when I was 6 or 7. I used to have a tiny plastic blue table in my basement that I could use for coloring because my parents didn't want me drawing all over a kitchen table. Anyway, my brother and dad had gone upstairs to grab food because they were watching a football game on the basement TV. This little blue table was tucked away in a dark corner. Our basement has one small pull cord light, so there's only some light dotted around. At this point, I wasn't scared because I was young and didn't understand until I felt like something was watching me. I looked up and turned to my right by my family's washer and dryer. I faintly saw a transparent man staring at me. He was clad with a suit and dress shoes. He also had glasses and a mustache. I've never been so scared in my life. I have also never screamed so loud or run so fast. Seriously, I sprinted upstairs. Once I was finally able to regain my composure, I told my mom what had happened. I described him and her face dropped. She went into the next room and started looking around for something on a shelf. Once I saw what she grabbed, my face dropped as well. She had a picture of my grandfather who passed away before I was born. I had perfectly described him. I know I shouldn't be afraid to go into the basement, but now it just gives me the creeps, and I refuse to go unless someone else is down there with me. Have any of you experienced something like this?
Dang.
That one's deep.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I saw his grandfather.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. Was he there to visit him? Was he there to scare him?
Yeah. And, it's definitely interesting because, his mom had to search for that video or for that picture.
Picture,
and
right.
He's
And
never
she knew
seen
right
it.
away.
He's never seen it before. And, the grandpa died before he was born. So.
Right. And the fact that he described him perfectly
Right.
just adds some validity to it.
Yeah.
If you liked hearing these stories, make sure to drop a like, comment your scary stories. We'd be sure to read some good ones for sure. And subscribe.